Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you both. Extensive records of public service, and Mayor, there's no question, as members of the Senate have pointed out, you have this extensive depth and breadth of public service that brings a tremendous amount of knowledge to serving the United States when confirmed. But I feel it's important to explore one piece that you've made reference to. We've received on the committee a letter from a dozen aldermen, state representatives, state senators, a county commissioner, asking we take a close look at the question of systemic racism and how the role of city leaders working closely with police departments sustains inequities. And certainly in my home state, we've wrestled with this. My largest city, Portland, has a predominantly white police force that has a record of shootings of members of the minority community, Black and Hispanic citizens. That has been a very contentious issue. And Chicago had this as well. 2010 to 2015, police fired 528 cases. They hit citizens 262 times. They fatally shot 92 individuals. Of those who were hit, 94% were members of minority communities, Asian, Black, or Hispanic. When you and I met, and I appreciated your comments and thoughts, you said kind of the big mistake you made was that you took at full faith an evaluation from a group of police officers that the shooting of Laquan McDonald was a good shooting, a term that apparently the police used. That group of officers that rendered that, was that an official police review board?
We said, Senator, and I thank you for the question, and I think there are two parts I'd like to address both if I could.
But please don't eat up all my time.
Oh, no, I won't.
I know that's a great tactic, but I really wanted to get to the heart of this. I just wanted to understand, since that was the key thing that you said was a mistake, I wanted to understand, was that an official police board that rendered that evaluation?
No, the police leadership the next morning after a police-involved shooting reviews a shooting.
It was the morning after?
I assume it to be, but yes, yes,
so,
right after.
You had conveyed to me that that kind of shaped your thinking up through the eventual release the following, a year later, and then your public commentary in November of 2015. My understanding is that the mother of Laquan McDonald learned about the nature of the shooting when she was called by the funeral house, who said to her, "Did you realize your son was shot multiple times, that his body is riddled with bullets?" She didn't know, apparently, at that point. That information had not been shared with her. And then her attorney subpoenaed records in November of 2014. And when the attorney subpoenaed records, did that trigger the conversation that filled you in? I know you've said you never saw the videos, but filled you in on the fact that this was an unusual case where a child had been shot 16 times.
As I said in an answer to Chairman Menendez, there is an investigation going on by three entities: the U.S. Attorney, the State's Attorney, IPRA. They were the ones dealing with this, and as I believe, you don't want a politician to make a unilateral decision while those investigations are going on, because it would violate a sacrosanct protocol and principle of ensuring that nothing is out prior to the investigation being wrapped up.
Yes, Mayor, but that wasn't my question. My question was, when her attorneys sought the evidence from the city, is that when you learned about the nature of what had happened from the city attorney or from the police or so forth?
As I said, when the video became public is when I learned what happened and the consequence and what happened that night.
Okay. So in December, the family viewed the tapes, and the city required that they enter into a non-disclose agreement. That's a pretty significant decision. You were saying you had no idea of the circumstances of the shooting. No one had told you the child had been shot 16 times, or that the child was lying on the ground, or that a revolver was reloaded. You had no idea in December when the family reviewed the tapes?
Senator, is that situation, the family approached the city about a settlement. An NDA is a standard practice at that time, and also the public information, as you know, when the city council is asked to work with the family and come up with the resources for the compensation, all the members of the city council heard that, and it passed 50-0. So that was the kind of description that was in the public domain when it was voted on.
Yes, of course, I didn't ask about the NDA. I asked if at that point you were briefed on the details of the shooting.
The details were in the public domain when the Corporation Council briefed the alderman.
So in February and March, the city reached out proactively. Please, Chairman, can I finish a few questions here?
I don't know about a few questions, but this has been explored, and it's now almost 2 minutes over, so I'll give you another minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll submit questions for the record so that you can address these things. But I think that in this time of national reckoning with the challenge of Black Lives Matter, when aldermen and state representatives and state senators say this was an issue, that there was close cooperation during your time as mayor between the mayor's office to essentially discourage the release of information and to not develop significant reforms, which I know that you have a story to tell about the reforms, and I'll submit questions to record so you can tell that story. I think it's important for this committee to actually weigh this, and so thank you for meeting with me before. Thank you for addressing this now. But just to clarify, because all these things happened, the family requested the video. The city attorney reached out proactively before there was a lawsuit to ask for a settlement. The settlement was approved in a less than 1 minute meeting with no public discussion. It seems hard to believe that all those things happened, and yet you were never briefed on the details of the situation when you were leading the city.
Can I, since you brought up aldermanic letters, as you'll see also here, the leadership of the Black Caucus has signed a letter in support of my nomination. Those are the members that worked with me. It doesn't take away from the fact that, as I said before, and I want to repeat because I think it's important, all those are not technicalities. This is a tragedy that happened, as you know, as you made reference to what's going on in Portland, and as I said, no city of any size has not confronted the gulf and the gap that exists between police practices and the oversight and accountability. I made efforts of them. They missed the mark because they totally missed how deep that distrust is. And as in the reverend or the pastor's letter, how broken the system is that we all relied on.
Yes, and I did note that
The chair would just say to my distinguished colleague, I've allowed you to go 4 minutes over the 5 minutes, so I think that questions for the record would be appropriate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.